we are going to get started, and I want to thank you so much for coming. Welcome. I think you all know me. I'm Jennifer Lee. I'm president of the Reno Ostomy Association, which is presenting this event. I just wanted to say thank you to those who are supporting the event, the Jean Galindo Memorial Fund, which is administered by the Pacific Coast region of the Wound, Ostomy, and Continence Nurses Society, and also our ostomy supplier companies have generously supported this, ConvaTec, Hollister, and Coloplast. It is my great delight to introduce our speaker, Eric Polsinelli. I don't know exactly how I found his website. I was like trolling the internet for all things ostomy. I know everyone does that. And I came upon his website and I knew that I'd found something pretty amazing. Eric told his story on the website about becoming profoundly ill with Crohn's disease 10 years ago yesterday. And after years of conventional and alternative therapies, which failed, he got an ileostomy in 2013. And Eric started blogging about the experience, and so his award-winning website, VeganOstomy, was born. His independent, unbiased, and incredibly thorough product reviews are invaluable to both the ostomate and to the medical professional. And his can-do attitude as he blogs and makes videos about living life to the fullest with an ostomy is so uplifting. Eric has received a lot of attention for his work. He won a 2017 WeGo Best in Show for Blog award, and he's also a sought-after speaker internationally. He has spoken in South Africa, throughout Canada, in Chicago, at the University of Michigan, and last spring at the WOCN National Conference, the Wound, Ostomy, and Continence Nurses Society National Conference in Philadelphia. I was thrilled that he agreed to come to Reno and address this audience, and I was so grateful that we have Lake Tahoe in our pocket because it helped me lure him here. So please join me in welcoming Eric Polsinelli.
How's everyone tonight? Good. This is actually my first time in this part of the United States, I'll have to say. I've never traveled further than Chicago in the past, so being out here is wonderful. The landscape, the beauty is just unbelievable. But why don't we get started here? So I'd like to first of all obviously thank the sponsors. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for their support. They do a lot obviously for ostomates, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to be here. Special thanks goes to Jennifer. I'm so honored to be here. To be honest, this is quite an opportunity, and I'm grateful that you even gave me consideration for this, so thank you. So I want to get some house cleaning out of the way. So a quick disclaimer. I'm a patient, just like many of you are. I'm not a doctor. I've never trained to be a doctor or a nurse or anything of that sort. So with that being said, my experience really is my own. Don't take my word over your doctors or your healthcare professionals. If you have a problem, please talk to your stoma nurse, talk to your surgeon, talk to your GP, whoever is available for you. Please talk to them. Now I'm going to be mentioning and showing a couple of different products. I don't get paid by any of these companies. I personally like a lot of these products. I use them myself. I'm not paid to endorse them or to speak on behalf of any particular company. I like to keep my website and my content as unbiased as possible, so I'd like to just have you guys keep that in mind. So Jennifer did introduce briefly my story. I was diagnosed 10 years ago, yesterday, with Crohn's disease. Now, Crohn's disease is a form of inflammatory bowel disease, and we don't exactly know what's going on in the body with IBD, but it's suspected that the immune system is essentially attacking itself. Now, my particular form of Crohn's disease was very aggressive, especially in the latter half of the colon, the rectum, the anus. So all that was kind of really, really diseased. And, you know, I went through many different drugs. I went through the alternative therapy route. I did as much research as I could, but really nothing was helping me to get better. So I actually ended up with a permanent ostomy in 2013. So I've had my ostomy now for over 5 years, which is kind of scary to think about that because the time flies really quickly and you don't realize it. But it's like, wow, 10 years for Crohn's, 5 years of an ostomy, it's pretty cool. But that started off my journey into what life would be like as an ostomate. So I did create the website called VeganOstomy. Now, for those of you who are wondering, well, why VeganOstomy? What does that even mean? The vegan part of that, if you don't know, vegan is someone who avoids animal products. So I don't consume animals. I don't wear animal products or anything like that. And the ostomy part is obviously ostomy. When I was searching for information, I wanted to make sure that there was information, that I was looking for information specific to my needs. And that is, well, will I be able to eat plant-based foods? Like I hear, don't eat salads, don't eat beans. Well, I kind of live off those foods, so what am I going to do? I didn't find too much information, which is disappointing, but got me started to create my own content and hopefully help other people who are looking for those answers get them. Now, my website has exploded over the last several years. It gets the attention of tens of thousands of patients every month. I do have a YouTube channel as well. There's well over 100 videos on there. The videos have been viewed over 1 million times. And it's of people all ages, both genders, are looking for the information. People from all over the world are looking for it. I have people from some of the poorer parts of the world that visit the website, get information. They say, look, I don't have a nurse, so your information is quite valuable. And I'm really humbled by that, but at the same time, it disappoints me that they can't get the help that many of us have found. So I'm going to talk about a few different things. This is our overview of the agenda. We will have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so if you want to just hold any questions or maybe think of questions you'd like to ask at the end, that would be great. So one of the things that I like to do with the website is I like to dig into the analytics. I like to find out, first of all, what people are looking for and then try to create content around that. Now, obviously, I have my own experiences to talk about, so that tends to be what fills up my content. But there's a lot of search results that continually pop up. There's a lot of content that always ends up near the top, and that's what people tend to be looking at. So through my articles and videos, I found that there are some very specific common concerns with someone who has an ostomy. And those tend to be skin health, things like leaks and how to avoid them, clothing options for both men and women, diet, what do I eat? A lot of people are sent home, unfortunately, with no information on how to actually eat after surgery. I know that you guys do a really great job here, but in other parts of the country and other parts of the world, I constantly get questions saying, well, I just came home with my ostomy and I'm not sure exactly what to do now. Like they just sent me home. Okay, well, let's get started with that, right? So there's a lot of information that people are looking for. Odors is another big concern. There's kind of a stigma out there that ostomates smell. I don't know where that came from. Maybe it's because poop tends to be part of the conversation, but let's be honest, a well-managed ostomy is not really going to smell. And as a matter of fact, I'd probably say we have an advantage because with some of the products you can put inside your appliance, you can really eliminate the odor. So thumbs up for that. Now there are other topics that are important. A lot of people ask about them. A lot of people write me questions about them, and that is things like traveling or specific issues with their appliance. So for example, like filters clogging, things like that. I also get a lot of questions about intimacy, sexual questions. Now, it's really interesting to me because a lot of the questions tend to come from the female spouse of the person with the ostomy. Very rarely do I have men say, hey, I've got this problem. And what's really interesting is there have been a few studies, and it seems like men tend to have more problems with their appliance. And what I suspect is happening is something's going on. They don't want to say anything. The problem gets worse. Hey, now I have a big problem. And that's something that I've been trying to advocate for, get men to be more into the conversation. I look at the stats, and I know men are out there. They're viewing my videos, they're reading my articles. I know they want the content. They're just not taken the next step to ask themselves or be proactive in maybe sharing their experience if that's what they want to do. So rather than address each topic on its own, because I think that would probably take a lot more than an hour, I'm going to talk about some of the strategies that have really helped me to problem solve, to get over some of these complications that may end up when you have an ostomy. So the first thing that I think is really important is learning how to bulletproof your mind. I've always said that, attitude really is everything when it comes to managing your appliance, really managing any kind of chronic illness or traumatic experience in your life. And I think it's extremely important that we apply these concepts when you have an ostomy. And there are so many people out there who have physical health problems, but the mental health is never addressed. It's very rarely addressed. And I know there are a lot of healthcare professionals that are trying to get that going. They're making the connection between, depression, anxiety, stress disorders, things like that, and having a chronic illness. And holistically, you want to address both components. So these are really important. Now, the first thing out there is cultivate gratitude. And one of the tricks that I've learned along the way is to change some of the vocabulary when I'm talking or thinking about having an ostomy. So a lot of the time when someone says, I have to have an ostomy, they say it like I have to have an ostomy, now I have to have an ostomy. Rather than saying it like that, why don't we say, well, I get to have an ostomy? Because it changes the entire meaning of that phrase. The whole perspective shifts into something where it almost seems like a burden at first to now this is a gift that I get to have an ostomy. And it really is a gift for many of us. For me, myself, I probably would not be standing here had I not had my ostomy, because my disease was so aggressive and nothing was really slowing it down that this really became my last option. So I'm very grateful to that. Now, another thing that this kind of came about, this kind of mentality came about through some of the studies that I had when I was really sick and I was kind of going through this like spiritual transition, and I did a lot of reading and I kind of got hooked into Buddhism and Buddhist beliefs. And one of the things that stuck in my mind about the mindset is that nothing is permanent. Impermanence is like one of the foundations of Buddhism. And so that's something that I think is really important when you're going through hard times, is to realize that, difficult times really won't last forever. They can't last forever. Nothing lasts forever. The sun, the moon, the earth, nothing will last forever. And I think that's important to note when you're going through a tough time. I've had leaks, I've had blockages, I've had all the things that most of you guys probably have experienced. But they all go away at some point. Problem is solved, things get better. 5 years ago, I had to be wheelchaired into a hospital. And now I'm in Reno, Nevada, speaking to you guys. Like, things change. They always do, okay? Good or bad. Now, another thing that I think really helps to strengthen and bulletproof our mind is to connect with others. You don't have to go through this alone, Being alone through all this is probably the most difficult thing to go through. Some people, unfortunately, they don't have supportive family. They may not have people around them that understand what they're going through. So connecting with other people, connecting with other ostomates can be really empowering. It really sets a different tone to the whole process of going through this. And I think that's really important. The fact that you guys are all in this room, I think is a very positive thing. So thank you guys. Another thing that I find really important, and I know this is challenging to do, and I know that everyone comes from a different background, but I think it's really important that we don't look back at the person before we got sick, the person before we had surgery, okay? I don't think looking back serves us well. I had a very different life before surgery, before getting sick, than I do now. But I would say my life now is probably a lot better than what it could have been back then. So that to me, okay, yeah, I had a different life, but it doesn't necessarily mean it would have been a better life. And I think that's hard to do because sometimes some of us come into having surgery through like no disease. It could have been an accident. It could have been something that was totally unexpected. And I think that point is worth looking at even harder because that's really when some of the changes, like you might have been healthy before the ostomy. So you might be looking back at that previous life and thinking, I had such a better life. But I wouldn't look at that. You could have a much better life in the future. So why not focus on that? Now the fifth point, this is something that I think this has been probably one of the most valuable lessons for me, is to see each opportunity as a chance to learn and grow. Now I say that especially when problems come up. So for example, if I have trouble with leaks all of a sudden, and I could get very frustrated about it, and it's easy to get frustrated. I could get angry and think, to hell with this, why should I have to go through this? But it's not going to really help me in any way. So for me, I try to look at these problems as opportunities. Once I learn how to, for example, prevent those leaks or stop odor or manage clothing options, that becomes an experience that I can kind of dig out of my toolbox of experience and use that the next time. If something comes up, I have that experience. That's something I think there's always going to be a lesson in everything we do, and I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. Even when something terrible happens, there's always going to be a lesson there that might help you to avoid it for the next time. Now the sixth point, this point is especially important I think for new patients, but even for veteran patients like me, and if we have time later I'll probably tell the story, but education and preparedness. This can really help to reduce anxiety and fears. If you're not prepared for something, that's when your mind starts to go in circles because you're not confident anymore, you don't know really what to expect or how to tackle the next challenge. So I think that's a very important thing, and that's what I'll cover in the next point. So these are some tips that I've found that help reduce my stress and helping to problem solve when it comes to ostomy-related issues. So the number one point, and this point is hard to understand because I know some people are in a bad place and they've been in a bad place for a while, but every problem has a solution. Now that solution may not be easy to find. It may require effort, from outside to help you along the way, but there has to be a solution to every problem, okay? And I firmly believe that. I think that no matter what challenge I've had, there's always been a reason and there's always been a way to correct it or prevent it the next time. Tip number 2, and this is so important, talk to your damn stoma nurse. I don't know why so many people decide, talk to your stoma nurse. I don't know why people, they go to Dr. Google and they figure this might be something I can solve myself. And sometimes it is, but it usually isn't. And it usually is something that's totally different from what you see online. And we go about it the wrong way. We let too much time pass before we actually get help. We get frustrated. Your stoma nurse knows more about products than most people do. They know about wound care. They know about things we can do to help your skin. They have answers. So you have to actually go to one. Don't expect them to come to you and know automatically that you're having a problem or that they have this crystal ball. You have to tell them what's going on, be honest about it, and talk to them. Now that obviously leads into point number 3. Don't wait before seeking help. This is especially important for men. I don't know why men, and maybe it's a pride thing, I don't know, but men don't want to admit that there's a problem and they don't want to get help. There's no need to suffer. If you're having trouble with anything, just go ask for help. I think, the stereotype of men not wanting to ask for directions. I think we need to just get rid of that whole, that whole thought process because there's nothing wrong with asking for help. It's not embarrassing. It can be empowering. We can help each other. So let's just do it, okay? And ladies, encourage your partner or your friend or your male coworker, if they're having trouble and you know it, encourage them to seek help, to actively look for that help. Number 4 is a really important thing, and this is something that I learned along the way because I'm a very curious guy. But products, there are so many products available, and I think it's really important to learn what's out there, even if you don't need them. And I'm going to talk about a couple of products that have come in really handy for me, but they may not be something that everyone needs or not something that everyone needs all the time. So that's really important. There may be something, and this is really why talking to your stoma nurse is important, there may be something that can help you that you're just simply not aware of, okay? So if you learn about the products, I have a lot of product reviews. Again, I don't get paid for any of those. They're completely based on my experience. But I have a lot of product reviews that, I've tried products. I've tried to be as objective as I can. That might be something if you can't purchase, for example, a clothing accessory, which might be expensive and not covered. If you can't afford that, at least look at the reviews. At least see maybe what it's all about. It may or may not be for you, but at least learn about that. Now, tip number 5, if you're experiencing sudden issues, okay, examine some of the recent life changes. And this is something that I find really fun to discover, because sometimes when someone comes on my support forum or emails me and we kind of do a little sleuthing, sometimes we can trace it back, whatever problem they might have, to something they did recently. There might have been a change in their moisturizer that they were using, or shampoo, or they maybe changed their diet, or maybe tried some new food in there that they didn't really expect to be a problem, but it might be causing some additional issues that were just unknown to them. So go back, see what's changed. I had one person actually say her husband was getting these leaks and they couldn't figure out why. The gentleman had had the same appliance for many years, no issues, no problems, all of a sudden leaks. Okay. Well, what's changed in his day-to-day, And she discovered that his posture and how he was keeping his pants and his belt, that changed. He was wearing his pants in a different way that he normally doesn't, and his posture was different, so it was, I guess, putting pressure on the appliance that wasn't there before, and it was resulting in a leak. So go back and just examine some of the recent changes in your life. You might be able to maybe quickly identify problems there. But if that doesn't work, obviously you're going to want to explore it further with your stoma nurse. And part 6, prepare. Prepare for everything. If you're traveling somewhere, prepare. If you're going even just out for errands, have a little kit with you, just in case. You never know. If you're going on a hike or something like that, if you're going to be sweating and you know that maybe that might cause a problem for you, be prepared for that. Now that can come in the form of just keeping supplies with you, or it can come in the form of knowing that, hey, okay, I'm on day 3 now with my appliance. I'm going to, go on a long jog. Maybe I should change it now, right? Or maybe I should change it after I get back, because I know I'll be sweaty and the wafer might have absorbed a lot of that moisture. So, plan ahead and put that into practice, because it will help to reduce stress, I guarantee it. Especially if you're in a situation where something unexpected comes up, knowing that, hey, it's okay, because I have my emergency kit, I have those supplies with me, no big deal. It's, frustrating, it's annoying, whatever, but at least you're prepared, and that will instantly reduce stress.